Good morning, good morning. How is everybody today? Wow, the market had a wild week last week. I can't believe that we only got to 0.8% away from a correction. That is very close to correction territory. We'll see if it continues down here this week at all or not, but for right now here to begin the week, we're actually seeing a bit of a pop back to the upside. I saw some news this morning hitting with Trump, of course. I mean, there's renewed threats, but at the same time, there was a little bit of positivity where last night I saw news about talks and everything, but again, the other side has not been saying that that's occurring. This morning, the big update on Bloomberg, Trump renews threat on Iran energy sites if Hormuz stays closed. U.S. President Trump renewed threats on Iranian energy assets, including blowing up power plants and Karg Island, if no deal is reached and the Strait of Hormuz remains effectively closed. Also said the U.S. is in serious discussions with a new regime in Iran. An Iranian officer earlier said that there haven't been any direct talks. Maybe that's not the regime that Trump's talking to, though. It's hard to say who's in charge there. But either way, SPY is coming back a bit this morning. So, nonetheless, the market is liking the news at least a little bit. Not saying that it loves it, but we are seeing a move back towards 642. 642 is going to be the first big resistance that I look for. And why is that the big resistance? It's because that was the low from Monday whenever the SPY gapped down last week. That was a big gap down, and the SPY didn't break that until Friday morning. And then we finally saw that big sell-off ensue. So watch that level closely. I'm also going to be watching the overall downtrend on the SPY. Don't forget about the downtrend that has been in play lately. SPY's had a lot of good reactions off of this. What if it comes up to test that again before dropping lower? I would not be surprised. We can see a lot of periods throughout this downtrend in the shorter term where there has been slight pops back to the trend. This one didn't quite get there, but reinforces the same action. Will we be getting that pop back here? I'm curious myself. Very curious today. Because the SPY did make that bounce back. Like, again, it is pointing higher rather than lower, at least this morning. Looking at the 1 minute chart. Keep your eyes on 642. Let's go, Bigfoot, Dr. Zoidberg, Ben, Tangyman, KNMSO, Ken Coded, Toro. Love it, guys. Go long, go short. That is the question, Nikki said. The $1 million question, as they like to say. We have to consult the crystal ball to know those types of moves. Of course, all the time, right? Just keep your eyes on the trend. Hopefully we see a good trend start to play out here intraday. I'm really watching this zone right around 638 this morning. I guess it's like 637.70 to 638. Big zone that I'm looking for. I don't really have any clear direction right now on the SPY. I lean down more than anything, but looking right now, it's in between these two zones. What I'm really watching for is the lower bound here. Right around 637.70, 638, like I said. If we see that start to give out, that's where I could see the SPY starting to sell off, and that's where I'll look for some scalping opportunities potentially down under there. Especially if that selling really continues into the afternoon and we see tech and everything following along. Could be some great ones out there. We'll probably see UVIX, UVXY, all those starting to pop again. They are starting to move a little bit right now as SPY is pulling back intraday. Pulling back pretty hard, I'll actually say right now. "14 minutes ago, hundreds of U.S. Special Ops, military personnel, Navy SEALs, and Army Rangers, Marines, and Army paratroopers are now in the Middle East." Paratroopers. Those are always interesting. Bye-bye Apple, Elite said. AAPL. Oh, gave back the gains, filled the gap to the downside. Probably gonna keep going. Watch for the breakdown. Oh, man. It's looking awful there, Elite. Dang. Good morning, Elite. It actually looks amazing. Yeah. A lot of good momentum, that's for sure. For damn sure. Look at this setup on the Mag 7 right now. A lot of Mag 7s are pulling back. Look at Google and Nvidia. Nvidia's red. Down 0.9% now on the day. Wow, yeah. Google, Apple, Nvidia, Tesla. All looking rough. Tesla's up 0.5%, but still looking brutal. Let's see Tessie pull back a bit more here. SPY testing 638 right now. First zone of support that I have on the day. 637.70 to 638. You know, Zoidberg, I don't really see anything with Powell today. I don't expect much. I'll say that. I don't expect too much. Because it's just a little conversation at Harvard. I actually have it right here. Coming out in about an hour. A moderated discussion at the Harvard University Principles of Economics class. I don't really expect that to be too crazy today. If Powell gets asked about things like that, I think he's just going to explain what's happened in the past with higher oil and higher energy prices. And then he also might just say, hey, there's a lot going around. Big drop off though. U.S. Embassy in Venezuela is formally resuming operations today. Headline just hit. Look at Tesla with that little gap up off of 360. How is the oil stocks today? Ooh, ZOM still going, guys. 175 hitting right now. Another 2.2%. I almost can't even believe that I'm witnessing that again here this morning. I didn't even check early on. I thought that they would be just kind of flat or slightly down with the way the market popped up today, but not the case. How are oil futures holding their ground? USO popping up slightly, 127.67. Wow. We are still seeing some massive action here out of these oil companies. How about LNG? Of course, that one's more boring today. It could get an afternoon pop, though. Oh, wow. I'm seeing a lot of news hitting here. Qatar Energy, first LNG, sets stage for Golden Pass LNG to deliver its first cargo from its facilities located in Sabine Pass, Texas. Golden Pass LNG achieves first LNG production from 3 LNG trains. I'm not super knowledgeable on LNG. I've never heard of Golden Pass, but it's hitting the headlines. It's kind of weird. I guess just because LNG has been in the radar lately, in the news. Palantir, big stock in the market, pulling back. You know what has been popping off a lot lately that has been under the radar is Ruger and Smith & Wesson. Look at RGR, the way that it's been trending higher here. Same with SWBI. SWBI has been gapping up and then some. We've actually been watching SWBI here on the channel for a long time. For those of you that follow these stocks, but it's getting to the point where I think it's going to start pulling back now a little bit, at least in the short term, like we're seeing. I wouldn't be surprised if it came down to test this lower zone where it has a big gap to fill down towards 12. Could be a good snipe though if it does. Yeah, Smith & Wesson and Ruger kind of going under the radar here lately. How about Ferrari? How are they doing? Oh, still selling off. Race is pulling back hard. Why are they pulling back so much? Is the Corvette killing their sales? I don't get it. I don't understand. There's no way. Some people like to say if race is falling, it definitely shows a lot about the economy. Ahmad's looking at MU. Look at that pullback. It's about time MU broke this support. This was a big support on the daily. Giving it down. Not very surprised myself, especially with the overall market weakness. I know, right, Ramirez? Man, I only watched a couple races. Hamilton's on Ferrari, right? Wasn't he doing a lot better this year? But I think that they should be doing a lot better, hopefully, on the next few races. Hamilton took 6th in the Japanese yesterday. Got it. Oh, they raced at Suzuka. Okay. I know Suzuka. I raced there on the simulator. It's a cool track. Tesla pulling back down. 390 breakdown. Oh, really? I didn't know that. How do you feel about Avgo to the downside? AVGO? Yeah, I don't pay attention too much anymore, but... Oh gosh, Avgo. Avgo looks pretty rough. Yeah, I feel Avgo looks like they're in a very brutal position right now. Zoidberg, I definitely lean more to the downside myself. They are getting close to this support and recent low here, right around 295, but I could see that breaking down given the weakness lately. Yeah, it is right around 295.50. Wow, SPY still falling here from open. It's under 638 now by quite a bit. Fell all the way down to 636.84, 636.85. Fell under our first zone of support. It is testing the next support though. Around 636.50, 636.60. You can see all these different levels from today. Looking weak. Traders are scared right now in the short term. Let me pull up some of this news here. I see some news right now. It's pretty interesting. The NASDAQ composite down 10 of the last 11 trading weeks. Whenever this happens, we actually see a lot of green come in the short term. Look at all these situations. One day later, the market goes green 60% of the time. And then after that, it's essentially 100% of the time. All the way out to 2 weeks later. That's insane. It's pretty rare to see this happen, though, I must say. Pretty rare. It generally happens during some of these big, massive drops. But it does result in some great buying coming out there. What's weird is that whenever you get to 6 months later, it goes red again, which is pretty strange. Very, very strange. I guess it was kind of cherry picked because those two were right in the same exact time frame, essentially. All the others are different, so let's just say we took one away. Then it would look a little bit better, but still not the best, really. It'd be 50% instead of 40. Very strange stats. Very strange. There goes SPY, 636, coming into play here. DXY is going crazy right now. You're sorting silver today. Wow, yeah. Looking pretty good. You said DXY. It really is. 100.46. Let's see that daily. Oh, yeah. I've been waiting for it to break out past here. It's been really extending up to there. 1 second, I'm going to grab a quick drink of water.
%60 of the time, it works every time.
All right. Did you like it, Ahmad? Yeah, you were looking at Av go to the downside too? Nice. Yeah, it's looking pretty solid, honestly, in the way that it's dropping off. I was watching Pfizer for a potential breakout in the middle point of last week, but it just never really materialized, of course. Didn't break that resistance at all. Was on the radar, though. Looking at the watch list this morning, AMC is up at the top. What is up with that? ORMP, OripMed. These guys they are developing / making the oral insulin pill. This is Ben Shapiro's company, not his company, but I think he is on the board or a majority shareholder. He's associated in some way. It's been a long time since I've seen this here. Let me see. I believe, though, this is an Israeli company making an oral insulin pill. Ben Shapiro serves as an independent director on the board of directors. He was appointed May 1st, 2023. May 1st of 2023. Let's see. Okay, so he was appointed right here. Damn. That's a big support to buy off of too, essentially. Yeah, oral insulin's their main thing here. Very interesting, though. Very, very interesting. I'm not trying to push it or anything, of course. It's just one that I look into, and, you know, every once in a while we check back in, especially if it's having some decent movement or something. CrowdStrike up around the top end of the watch list, too. Where'd ORMP go? Did it get taken off the watch list? It did. Why did that happen? Something must be going on with the bid-ask spread on here, because now it's all the way, it got moved. Very weird, very weird. That's what happens with those weird low-price stocks, though. Let's go see Disney again. DIS. Popping off of 94.44. Disney was getting pummeled in the short term. I've been loving their drop. I honestly wish that they would drop more. Tangyman still in ORMP. All house money. 105 shares and you sold covered calls. Awesome. Roku up 2%. We have a lot of stocks up in the green today. Adobe is attempting to move. Now this could be interesting. Adobe has been getting crushed lately, and they're starting to try to form a short-term base here. Could be some more opportunity to the upside coming through. Sorry guys, 1 second. Huh. Big turnaround for Adobe intraday. Looking at a big move back up, 241.15. Watch out for that to hit here again. Wow, gosh, SPY still selling down, 635. Coming up. Slight gap up this morning just to give it back. Watch for the gap to fill down towards 633. Be a big zone. There is some support right here too, around 635 as well. It doesn't seem like it's going to be able to hold the market though here at 635. Wow, this is insane the way it's selling off. UVXY and the VIX are popping it back up too. From the low right around open to where UVXY is now, it ran up 3.6%. You can see the VIX coming back too. Nikki says what, 635 and then 620? There'll probably be something mixed in before 620 comes up. 620 is pretty far. But yeah, 620 is a very good support though coming up too. And that'll be right before we get to 613 to 615. Because 613 to 615 is the main zone I'm looking for there. To test the Liberation Day peak essentially. $632 is going to be the big zone of support under here. What do I have next here? 630. 630 as well. Let me scroll back a little bit. Yeah, 630 lines up pretty well. 626.50. Also, there's a lot of smaller supports mixed in. I will say the 626.50 to 627 support lines up extremely well on the chart. A lot of touches there. That would be one of the bigger ones I watch for on the way down. But it's a little far off from where we are today, at least at this second. We still have to get through 632 before we can talk about that. Wow, look at SPY reacting there, close to 635. Okay. It is bouncing off this zone of support. Again, these are support zones. It's extremely hard to get an exact level correct all the time. But there's always little ranges, like 50-cent zones where the SPY loves to bounce. Jerome Powell is speaking today. Great question. He's speaking at 10:30 Eastern, 9:30 Central. He'll be speaking in like 27 minutes, but we're not really going to be watching it. It's just a moderated discussion at Harvard. If he says anything, we'll get the big headlines, that's for sure. Right now, Tesla is attempting to hold support and bounce back. So is the SPY. We saw some weakness there, but SPY is attempting to hold that intraday support. As SPY pops, we now need to watch 636.60 as resistance. Same thing up here with 637.70, 638. That'll also be resistance. Big zone of support here. You can see all the bounces around this range lately. Get rid of that one so it's not as confusing. These are possible areas where SPY could reject back down if it were going to. Of course, if SPY just starts trending, it can trend right through them. Ooh, Miran is talking to CNBC. No evidence of inflation shock from oil. Inflation expectations not yet affected by higher oil prices, Miran says. No evidence either of a wage price spiral. Miran. Of course, Miran's going to say that, right? Chinese ships exit Hormuz in rare transit. 2 Costco linked container ships have exited the Persian Gulf. Not Costco, C-O-S-C-O. Costco. Bigfoot said 99% chance that we reject off 636. Hey, it's coming right now already. How are the banks today? Nothing too much, but they're kind of pulling back with the market here. Go check in on Nvidia, the big players in tech. Pulled under the low from after hours Friday even. Down towards 166.50. Let me go to Truth Social really quick. Trump made a post this morning. APLD 2350 put this Friday. I in the bid, I in the ask. And just keep buying and selling the stupid contract like 5 times today, Tangi says. JP must have told the kids to DCA before the big morning meetings. I see. There's all these funny memes going around that Trump has like Barron Trump sitting there like buying and selling stuff. So crazy. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised, but turning around, Bigfoot, turning back around. He goes, uh-oh. QQQ coming back too. Seems like the market's finding at least a small support intraday. Fed said inflation is heading back to a target from a year from now. Heading back to target a year from now. Okay. Fed's Mirren said that they're still concerned about the labor market. The Fed can accommodate that. Said that there could be about a point of easing over the course of the year, which would be like 4 interest rate cuts at 25 points anyways. Basis points per cut. Lots of headlines hitting from Mirren right now. I don't think that that's really what's moving the market much, though. Tesla's really stuck intraday. Not much action. MU had a lot of selling earlier. Again, found a base and has now been chopping around. Market's getting a bit boring here, but it is coming back a bit. Now testing 636.60. Little intraday resistance here. Looks like it's going to probably push through. It's a pretty small move back up, honestly. Sorry about that. Grabbing a drink of water. It's going to be a big week for possible boots on the ground, though. There were a ton of updates hitting at the end of last week and over the weekend, like the possibility of 10,000 more troops going in, the possibility of there being a total of 17,000 troops. Was a pretty big headline, too. Trump keeps making statements about taking over Karg Island or invading the coast, possibly. Lots of articles and more information has been slowly drip feeding to us. Almost preparing us in a way. Why is AAPL down from open? Are you talking about Apple? Yeah. AAPL, looking at it right now, It's really just down a normal amount. It's down 0.4%. I mean, this is pretty normal, honestly. I don't think that there needs to be anything too crazy, you know, thought of here. I will say that's one thing I see people doing too often. Like, there's always has to be something. Let's see. But just because it's down doesn't mean there has to be anything crazy. It says their Ireland unit is facing penalty from UK regulator. They're gonna have to pay £600,000. I mean, that's not that much for them. A little bit, but... For violations of the sanctions against Russia. What? Okay. All right. Well, I'm curious how that is. I don't think that that's why they're moving, though, at all. Really just down on normal price action. Like, look at that price action Friday. You know, we're in a volatile market, and we just have to be ready for moves. The Iran war is still inciting some fear into a lot of companies here. Look at Nvidia drop off at open, too. They had a similar drop off, actually, as Apple. Microsoft's the only thing that really held good in the Mag 7. Microsoft's up 1.19%. I guess Meta is up too, but they pulled back from open harder. Bigfoot said failed breakout. It is for now, rejecting off 636. Yeah, that is a good failed breakout to see initially. But what we have to watch for now is this lower base. There's kind of a base trying to form down here. I could see some people trying to short it off of this resistance back down. But if it starts to break through this resistance here again, I mean, you better be cutting if you're trying to short it down intraday, at least quickly. I wouldn't bag hold it, you know, and try to, and just in case it continues to move like this. But if it does break this resistance, it would be very enticing once it starts to get to 638. Crazy morning. What a bad week to quit Celsius energy drinks. Oh gosh. Supplement it with coffee. No, I'm kidding. Celsius energy drink. Speaking of that, CELH. Celsius Holdings, 3440. What's going on, Johnny? Yeah, man, I'll answer it. I need a second. I gotta go look it up in the background and stuff. Sorry, sir. I'll get to it in a second, though. I promise. I promise. Let me go pull it all up and everything. Give me a moment. Let's see. I think this is fitting for these more complicated ones. Hang on. All right. So the big money on MMYT is still in. They actually, so on the day that the big money entered, the 2,000 volume hit on those 40 strike calls. And what occurred now is we saw another 5,000 volume hit. And this was a spread play. Okay, this is a spread. So there's two sides to the trade. But we're looking at it to the upside. MMYT has not been moving very well. It's been falling off still. Now they have until April 17th, so this has to play out fast. And yeah, I'm with you. This play has been getting destroyed, and this happens. You know, this actually happens with big money trades. You know, I wouldn't be too sad about it, really. I mean, it happens all the time. I would try not to get emotional like that with trading, because inevitably, no matter what, some trades are going to lose. And to be honest with you, even the best traders out there, like 40% of the time they lose. So it's yeah, it's a fun game, right? The best thing is learning to embrace the L while also not taking huge ones. With things like the big money trades like MMYT, you know, you don't want to put a significant portion of your account into these trades. Now, you can still do good swing trades, don't get me wrong. But like, let's say that you have a $100,000 account, you don't need to be putting 50 grand in there. You know, that's kind of, I guess, what I'm getting at. The same thing though applies to a $3,000 account. You know, you don't want to be putting $1,500 into a play if you have only $3,000 in there. So keep that in mind as well, because that's a big deal with managing your positions. Because with some of these, like MMYT, where you're trying to catch a falling knife, you might have to actually hold through some shakiness like this, or let it go. You know, one or the other. And I get it. The play got destroyed. It definitely did. I'm looking at it right now. But I'll be honest, like, you know, it seems like, you know, you cut it a decent time, like as the support broke down, and it seems like you managed it fairly well. Like, good job cutting. I'll be honest, that's not a bad cut as support broke. It could always come back, and if it does, you know, don't feel bad about that either. Maybe look at possible re-entry, but I think it was a smart managed play. Support's breaking down, and that's not what you want to see whenever the play expires in a week or two. It's down like 60% or something close to that, Zoidberg. But they did re-enter, so that makes it a bit... Yeah, but still like 60%, so... But the thing is like, whenever they re-entered and we saw 5,000 volume come in, that could be like a different side of the trade that was being managed or something. I know that that's strange, but it could be. Like, they could have flipped their position around a little bit. I wouldn't think that they do, though. All right, guys, quick intermission. Give me just a moment. Wow, let's look at the Mag 7 setup here. SPY needs to get through 637. All right, 1 sec. Be right back. All right, we are back. What is going on, Hot Sauce? They said, is that a bullish flag forming on Amazon? I see higher lows. No. This is a 1 minute chart. This is a 1 minute chart. It is almost flagging. Look at Tesla. Tesla is what I really see as like being a wedge or a flag at this moment. Let's look at it right now. It looks more like a bear flag to me. Bearish wedge, bearish flag, whatever you want to call it. Tesla does look pretty rough on that one. Amazon. I don't really see Amazon flagging here too much. I guess if you went like this. I don't know. I don't love it though. I feel like Tesla's lines up better. Probably similar though. I normally just don't draw them out that vertically. Keep your eyes on the SPY here. It's turning over off 636.50. Big resistance hitting. A lot of momentum still to the downside from open. SPY tried to pop up this morning, gapped up pre-market, ran higher, and rejected back. Gave it all down. This is a crazy day here so far. Mirren ended his remarks on CNBC 6 minutes ago. A new stat, Iran is currently exporting 2.4 to 2.8 million barrels of oil and petroleum products per day, including 1.5 to 1.8 million barrels of crude, the same it was on average last year, and selling it at higher prices. Interesting. Got an MSTR puts at 143. What a beautiful day this has been, Elite says. 143. Oh my gosh, you like sniped the top there. Good to see it coming back down for strategy. Yeah, Powell should be speaking right now, Tank. Or soon. I don't expect anything crazy to come out of this though. There's no link to watch it live. So I don't know what's up with that. Here we go. Here it is on Associated Press, but I'm not going to be watching the whole thing, of course. Maybe we'll see like if JP decides to say something at some point, but I'll keep it over here so I can see when he comes out. Keep it updated for you. Yeah, I'm looking at AP, but I did find it. I'm surprised that there's no link, though. Normally, they throw a link on here for everything on the Federal Reserve calendar. Yeah, I just refreshed it. Still no link. Okay. Oh, well. We have an Amber Alert going off here. Wow, look at Bitcoin rejecting. That's a big drop there. That's a crazy hit with Bitcoin. Last time it did this and tested the trend back down, it really fell off. Yeah, BMNR is not that green. How much is Bitcoin down? Bitcoin's technically up 2% still, but we're just seeing it start to reject. BMNR is also starting to reject. It's up only 1%. Not a problem. AMD wants under 200. Advanced money dispenser. Or destroyer, as some might call it. 200 will fill the gap here. Oh gosh, that's going to be an interesting gap fill at 200. I wonder what's stacked up there on the book map. That will be big today, Elite. Oh yeah, there is a decent buy wall stack there, that's for sure. That is for sure. Big buy wall on Bookmap. For those of you that didn't know, we actually have some special offers with Bookmap. Let me grab these really quick. Let me grab this. Yeah, if you're interested in Bookmap, check out the link I'm sending. Try it out for a month. It's pretty badass. See where the buyers and sellers are stacked up at? $200 support, 35,000 shares stacked up on AMD. That's where it's going to be filling the gap too. I would think that it could have an intraday bounce here, but we'll see if the selling is strong enough to really push it down or not. Pep, quick 100. Let's see. PEP, PepsiCo. That's a nice jump. 157.50. It's a good jump, though. No kidding. 2.7%. Pepsi's been having some big candles. This is interesting. How's Coke? KO popping off. Coke's probably popping off after Tiger's debacle over the weekend. Or at the end of last week, I should say. Poor Tiger. Oh, JP.
And at the Fed generally. And I think it helps us make better decisions. The Fed has had a tradition of governors not dissenting, but that's really not typical of other major central banks where there's more dissenting, or I mean, they're different, depends on the central bank. And to me, what matters is a dissent thoughtful? Is it helpful? Does it help? Does it express a point of view? Can you stand behind it and say, yeah, that's very thoughtful? And that kind of a thing is not bad. And it doesn't hurt with communications. You know, I think a situation like the present situation where, you know, there's sort of downside risk to the labor market, which suggests keep rates low, but there's upside risk to inflation, which suggests maybe don't keep rates low. You've got tension between the two objectives. And I think to try to expect unanimity at a time like that, where it's really quite historically challenging, it would almost be misleading to be really confident in which way that should go. In fact, it's been said that confidence is what you feel before you really understand the problem.
Okay. Let's turn to the Fed's balance sheet. In 2008, 2009, that great financial crisis, there was a massive expansion in the Fed's balance sheet. And then again in 2020, under your leadership, there was a second vast expansion in the Fed's balance sheet to address these two economic and financial crises. The balance sheet has since come down a bit, but it still sits at over $6 trillion. So I'd like to hear your views on how efficacious this vast bond buying program has been, both in the 2008 and then again in the 2020 episode, and also hear your reaction to the critics who say that the Fed has become too big a player in the bond market. The Fed has become too influential. There's been a muddying of, as according to the critics, of monetary policy and fiscal policy. Do they have a point, or are they wrong?
So I think the place to start with that is the problem that people were struggling with from about 2008 to 2022, let's say, in central banking everywhere in the world is, once you've cut interest rates to zero, do you have anything else you can do? Let's say you cut interest rates to zero and the economy is still clearly not flourishing and it wants more support. So do you just say, well, we're done, we're out of ideas here? And there were two ideas that were followed in the global financial crisis, one of which was to buy assets, longer-term assets, and what you're doing there is you're buying longer-term government-guaranteed securities, which would hold down longer-term rates and that should stimulate the economy, or also forward guidance, which would tend to hold down forward rates as well, or just rates generally. So we did those two things rather than do nothing. And I think in the first instance, they were both efforts were successful at restoring market function and at restoring financial stability. At the beginning of the global financial crisis and the pandemic, we had massive problems of market function. They were solved. I think the question, getting to your question, David, of the macroeconomic effects is a much less certain question. I don't think there is an accepted answer, but I would just say there's an oceanic quantity of research on this, and overall it tends to find that buying long-term assets does lower interest rates and does provide some support for economic activity. And I guess I'd be in the camp of thinking that there's something in that, but it's hard to quantify it. And I think, different people have different views on how much those effects could be. The other side of it is, QE is thought by the critics to risk all kinds of other things. So, for example, you could buy too much of the Treasury market and it would stop functioning well. We have not seen that here. At the very beginning, there was the thought that it would be inflationary. We have not seen that, or that it would threaten financial stability or even create inequality. So we haven't really seen the downside risks. At the same time, the last thing I'll say is, I remember before I took over as chair thinking, I'll almost certainly never have to do quantitative easing. So what's that expression? Man plans and God laughs, something like that. So it just, the pandemic came around and we needed to do a lot of asset purchases in a big hurry, and we did. So far, no Treasury Department has ever said, stop doing that, you're supporting the economy too much. Maybe that'll happen someday, but it hasn't happened yet.
Great. So let's talk about the dynamics of inflation since the spike in 2022. Inflation has been coming down since then, but it still hasn't reached its 2% target. Some have argued that that last mile is extremely difficult, and to obtain that, we will need a recession. Others have argued that you've gotten us very close and you'll get us the rest of the way. Are you concerned about the time duration of the path from the high inflation of 2022 back to target? It's taken time. We're not there yet. Is that a destination we'll reach, or are you concerned that the last mile will prove very difficult?
So we will reach, the FOMC is and will continue to be committed to getting inflation back to 2% on a sustained basis. That's the place to start. So I feel like we had pretty much gotten there at the end of 2024 against the predictions of almost the entire economics profession when we raised rates a lot and very quickly in 2022. 100% essentially of economists were forecasting a recession. We didn't have one. Actually, we had 23 and 24 were both very strong years as the supply side healed and as our higher rates had some effect on inflation. So by 2024, you had the economy growing at 2.5%. You had inflation in the 2 plus a few tenths on a 12-month basis by the end of the year. And you had the employment market. You still had the labor market at essentially full employment. So I would call that a soft landing. We had it there. Then since then, we've had to face a much smaller source of inflation, which is the tariff inflation is visible, and we think it's really just a one-time price increase. That's been our thinking since the beginning. Right now, we think it's adding somewhere between 0.5 and a full percentage point to inflation, but that's a much smaller thing than we saw during the pandemic inflation. And and of course now we're facing events in the Middle East, which will certainly affect gas prices, and we feel like our policy is in a good place for us to wait and see how that turns out.
Yeah, great. So let me turn to the current crisis in the Middle East and the effect on energy prices. Indeed, this classroom is familiar with that question from the last problem set, where we asked, how would you advise the Fed to respond to the rising price of oil? And we teach that when there's a demand shock, it's a pretty natural set of recommendations that emerge for the Fed. But when there's a supply shock, like this energy price shock, there's trade-offs that the Fed has to juggle. How do you make those trade-offs in general, and how do you make those trade-offs in this particular instance? And can you help everyone with their piece?
Well, maybe they should tell me. Sure. So you start with what you said. Our tools work on demand. Higher rates will tend to moderate demand. Lower rates will tend to stimulate demand. And when you have a supply shock, our tool doesn't have meaningful shorter-term effects on supply. So when you have a supply shock, the first question is, do you respond to it? And the classic question has been around energy, just in general, not really speaking about the current situation, although I'll get to that, I guess. But energy shocks have tended to come and go pretty quickly. Monetary policy works with long and variable lags, famously. And so by the time the effects of a tightening in monetary policy take effect, the oil price shock is probably long gone, and you're weighing on the economy at a time when it's not appropriate. So the tendency is to look through any kind of a supply shock. But a critical, essential aspect of that is you have to carefully monitor inflation expectations, because you can have a series of these supply shocks, and that can lead the public generally, businesses, price setters, households, lead them to start expecting higher inflation over time. Why wouldn't they? At the end of a certain number of years, the inflation is now just higher, and that can happen. So you monitor that very, very carefully. Also, in the current situation, you have to be mindful of the whole broader context. And the broader context is we're still, we've been coming down close to 2% post-pandemic, but we've never actually, gotten right and stayed at 2%. So it's been a while. And we're very mindful of that fact. Inflation expectations do appear to be well anchored beyond the short term, but nonetheless, it's something as we will eventually maybe face the question of what to do here. We're not really facing it yet because we don't know what the economic effects will be, but we'll certainly be mindful of that broader context when we make that decision.
Great. So you've been a powerful and vigorous defender of the independence of the Fed with respect to monetary policy. You've also been collaborative with administrations with respect to financial regulation. So under President Biden, you collaborated in a program of increasing regulation. Under President Trump, you've worked together to reduce regulation. So on the one hand, we've got an independent Fed with respect to monetary policy, and on the other hand, we have a collaborative Fed with respect to financial regulation. I don't think there's a tension there, but can you explain to us the two different approaches and how you understand them?
Yes, so start with monetary policy. I think there's pretty broad consensus in both political parties on both sides of Capitol Hill, and our oversight, by the way, is Congress, not the administration. But pretty broad agreement that on monetary policy, the Fed needs to be fully politically independent, not reactive to political things at all. We just need to do our job and stick to our knitting. Regulation is a little bit different, especially since Dodd-Frank, where the Dodd-Frank Act created something.
All right. That's enough of Powell for today. That's going to be getting to the boring segments, I have a feeling. But the SPY's been moving a little bit here. As Powell spoke, it started to sell off a little bit, but has actually bounced up and now is kind of whipsawed here at the low of the day. What an interesting move that we're actually seeing happen here with the market. As I look at the SPY, that low of the day is increasingly on the back of my mind for a breakdown around 634.70. Ever since we broke back under 638 this morning, it has been pretty rough for the SPY. It has failed to get back there. Looking at NVIDIA, trying to hold support. 166, 166.30, still holding up. What did he say for the spike? Really that he was confident on inflation and that a lot of these short-term inflation increases would be a one-time price increase rather than, let's say, a bunch of different increases. JP's carrying the boats, Bigfoot said. Carrying the boats, that's funny. Palantir bouncing around 140 at the moment. AMD did get to $200. It fell under it ever so slightly and is now starting to bounce back up. You can see it on the book map, how it broke that buy wall for a second. Some good volume hit there as that buy wall was tested and technically broke down. $22,000 volume hit whenever that ended up breaking. Still a big level on the day, though. AMD is having trouble really solidifying a breakdown. We're definitely not getting that huge drop-off like we did on a Friday. We started to at open there, but consolidating. Note on Friday how it took a little while for the market to sell down. It established an intraday support, and then once that intraday support broke, it created a good selling opportunity. It's doing the same thing here today. It's creating a good intraday support. Be on the lookout for this support breakdown. It'll get some better price action coming through. And Ahmad, Pepsi's still moving. Funny enough, those stocks just never slowed. Bank of America. How about Boeing? Nothing much today. What about any defense players? Lockheed Martin is pulling back pretty hard on the daily for us being in this conflict. Northrop. It's funny how these defense stocks got bidded higher up into the war and then sold off as the war started, like a buy the rumor, sell the news type of event. That seems like how it played out there. What did he say for the spike? And there was quite a few things said there. I don't know if that spike's going to hold or not now. So far, support's continuing to hold, though. SPY's getting extremely choppy here. It's testing the upper bounds of the lower range. There we go, right through resistance. Watch for 638 resistance now. 637.50, 638, big zone there. Coming up pretty quick on SPY. Powell said we have a significantly hardened the system against the kind of losses seen in the great financial crisis. We have a resilient financial system now, he says. Good, that means the banks should move up. Come on, banks. They have been moving fairly well, I must give it to them. Pretty good movement so far today, since Powell spoke. Big green candles here over the past couple minutes. Powell said we're watching private credit closely. That doesn't sound great. SPY 637.50. Still getting some good action. The bulls playing this one up out of this lower range must be excited at this moment. What's leading the watch list today? Cook. Cook is cooking. Traeger. Traeger grills. What a move by Traeger. Very good bounce back. Private credit is a relatively small part of the large asset. Poof. Poof. Oh, pool. Sorry, my eyes deceived me there for a second. SPY just touched 638 all the way up to resistance at that point. Boom, there we go. Working out well for the quick scalps here, honestly. Off of these supports and resistances, it's playing out extremely well. It's actually pretty great. Great price action. Is this a Powell bounce? Whenever Powell started talking about inflation getting to 2% and the Federal Reserve still being committed to their goals and also saying, that banks are resilient and the 2008 financial crisis, we're far away from that and everything, it seems like things are going very well. It's manipulation for sure, Bigfoot says. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure that there's a lot of that. Well, we know that there's a lot of that going on. Fed's Powell says it's very hard to build democratic institutions, but much easier to bring them down. Oh, wow. Markets moving up. Traders erase the Fed hike bet and price in chance of a cut this year. What? Now that was a pretty big thing to hit. Let's go see it on Poly Market. Let's see what Poly Market says. Poly Market has 0 cuts right now being priced in. Still. But that doesn't mean that Fed Watch or, Fed futures haven't priced it in. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really see that on the charts that I'm looking at. I don't know where they got that headline. Maybe it's true, though. I haven't seen anybody else post it up yet. We'll have to see how this goes, because I don't love that price action here. That needs a shift. Oh, SPY just started to shift back lower itself. That was a quick reaction. We have to remember, guys, this is a volatile market. Look at how much the SPY dropped this morning. This slight pop up isn't really that crazy. Iran arrests 46 people in Starlink sales network, seizes their devices. No Starlink allowed in Iran, guys. Since you sold your puts, it's gonna go down, Bigfoot said. Oh, you should have told us that. Wow, look at that move lower there. That was quick. That was quick. It's a massive drop off with Tesla here. 365.50. Resistance held up. It started to trade under that wedge a while ago, and that was a good trade under there for the scalpers. If you were able to catch that underneath there, kudos to you. Nice. How dare you, Bigfoot? Come on, man. That's not what we want to hear.
How dare you?
Volatility is here. Look at SPY reacting off support now, 630, 650. It's so funny. SPY is highly reactive off of these levels here. Highly, highly reactive. Just dump it already. Jeez Louise, Elite said. Gotta watch out for that base down here. Personally, I would not be surprised to see SPY try to pop it back up a little. I'm very mixed in between this zone now. I really want to see the low of the day give out. Of course, you can try to trade these intraday rejections and stuff, but I'm a big fan of watching that LOD right now. Double bottom, 634.75. Get that breakdown. Get the breakdown going. Alrighty, guys, we're going to go ahead and call it there today. We're getting into it. Markets are starting to slow down a little bit. Maybe not if Nvidia keeps selling off like that, though. Watch Apple. It's been very weak. Don't be surprised if Apple keeps showing weakness. A lot of times lately, if we see stocks start to sell off, they can have large intraday moves that last well into the afternoon. This is huge. Appreciate everybody, though, joining up. Let's go. Hopefully everyone has had a great start to the week so far. Some of these moves like MU to the downside have been extremely enticing. Keep watching some for more downside pressure. MU's pretty close. Let's get it. If you're not in the trading floor, check out the link that I'm sending in the chat. There has been a lot of awesome movement lately. The bots have been on fire with some of these big intraday runs. Catch in on some of the action. If you've never tried it out, or if you've been wanting to, this is probably the month to take advantage. Let's go. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great rest of the day. Make smart decisions. Walk away profitable. Let's get it. See ya.